he had against
I guess
Durrrr.
they want us to remember to value the money. They're very large chips, you know? They're very large chips.
Positive reinforcement, Isaac, that tomorrow always is another day. You know, you wake up, you're still there.
I hope you get a bunch
Absolutely.
of packs, and then you hand them over.
Marcello making it 2,500 from the button so far, as opposed to the 3,000 Tom has been raising to.
And obviously Marcello's so much different than Sammy. I mean, you talk about that 3-bet. You know, Marcello's going to have a higher 3-bet frequency than 5. Is it? Does Tom have
sure
to?
Does look that way.
Yeah.
4,000.
Does he have to adjust very quickly?
Well, even against Sammy, who was not 3-betting that frequently, Tom almost never folded to a 3-bet. So I expect him to continue doing that in this match. But in contrast to how he played against Sammy, really attacking every pot after he's called in those 3-bet pots from the button.
Lead out on the flop, called by Marcello, and now look what Tom's hit.
Tom turns top pair. Almost certainly going to fire again. Try and get 3 streets of value here.
Turning the bluff into a value bet.
Exactly.
10,000.
The whole point of semi-bluffing on the flop with 2 overcards is that it can so easily turn into a very strong hand on the turn.
This is the first real tester for Marcello. I mean, how easy is it to sort of change your mind in the middle of the hand?
Well, he has so many outs with the straight draw to go with his pair here that it's hard for him to consider folding on the turn, depending on what the river is, and that's not a terribly good one for him. Another overcard gets there that Durrr's likely to have been semi-bluffing with on the flop and turn. I think Marcello might fold here, but it will be a tough decision for sure.
If you're Durrrr right now, you're thinking sort of half-pot bet type of thing, or you...
Probably a little bigger. I think he can get some good value here. He has a real strong hand. Marcello will often have something like a 4 or a 5 with some gut shot to go with it. Something that...
27,000.
Yeah, that's a pretty hefty bet right there. 27 to 34.
Certainly is. And Marcello's going to go in the tank.
The flush draw missed. All the straight draws missed. So Tom has plenty of possible bluffs here that he can protect with this value bet. Marcello has to consider calling with anything at all. It's not an easy fold with the 3s by any means.
Because it's very polarized. I mean, at this right now, Tom doesn't have a 4, he doesn't have a 5. He's either got something big or nothing.
It doesn't have to be that big. I think Tom can value bet as weak as Ace-5, King-5, certainly a pair of 6s. Marcello's hands are mostly hands that paired with one of the cards on the flop.
Already, you get the feeling that this match is going to be a chess classic in a sense.
Yeah, in contrast to the match with Sammy, very quiet, both players looking very deliberate. Marcello deep in thought here.
I wonder if Marcello's plan is going to be that if he can make Tom sit there long enough, Tom might actually fall asleep. He's starting to nod off already. And it is call or fold. There is no raise here.
I would not like a raise from Marcello here.
Wants to see it early on, perhaps. Just keep the guys honest.
Can't blame him for that call. Tom can easily show up with something like 6-7, 6-8, any sort of flush draw. An ace-high hand is a gut shot on the flop.
Durrrr and Marcello, known as Luck Express Online, have played a lot of high-stakes games together. Now they come face-to-face at a live table with mutual respect.
I actually just met Marcello for the first time maybe a month and a half ago, but I've played with him a lot online and like talked with him on MSN a bit. He's a high-stakes gambler and likes to play high-stakes poker. He probably has a tighter style than most people that you would call high-stakes players, but it works for him.
I read in internet about him, and when I met him, often it's strange because the good poker players are often very nice. Maybe It's because they used to win money from the opponents, so they learn how to have a nice relation with other people. Anyway, Tom is a very nice guy for his age, especially for his age. He's very well educated, I think.
Welcome back to the Full Tilt Poker Durrrr Million Dollar Challenge. Marcello in Sammy George's old seat, and Isaac Haxon and myself watching.
3,000.
It is, Isaac, going to be sort of the eternal question everyone's asking, you know, how could you be so crazy enough as to put up $500,000 to play Tom Dwan?
I think because he wants the challenge.
I think you're right. It's great. It's great that Marcello's doing this, and, you know, after what happened to Sammy the other day, I'll tell you what, the challenge is pretty steep.
Yeah, it takes some courage to step up to this.
The 3-bet by Durrrr up to 10-5. And is that because Marcello is opening slightly less than we saw in the first match? It's 2.5 instead of 3? Is that sort of...
Well, actually, it had been 2.5 the first couple, but on this last hand, he did make it 3. Or rather, on this hand, he did make it 3.
12,000.
I would expect Tom to call here.
He does, we say he 3-bets a lot, but he also mixes it up a lot on the flop, doesn't he?
Yeah, he both bets and checks pretty frequently after having 3-bet. Probably leaning slightly towards betting more often, but when he flops a medium strength hand, anything from a bad top pair to a good ace high, he does check very often.
Feels like the second bullet would have worked, but Marcello's not to know that. What a card on a river.
Rivering the 10 should work as well. I think Marcello has a pretty easy value bet here. It'll be interesting to see what size he chooses.
Great spot. Great spot for him.
20,000.
3-outer.
It's a little less than half pot there. It's a tough call for Tom. That card completes a lot. 10-8 and 10-7, a couple of gut shots on the flop that Marcello might have bet with get there. 7-8 gets there. A lot of the combinations of 2 overcards get there.
All hands he might have played that way. Check back on the turn.
Yeah, very much so. At the same time, Tom can still beat King, Queen, King, Jack, Queen, Jack. Some ace-high hands, like ace 7 or 8 might be bluffing here.
10.
Tom pays it off.
Very logical, pretty sick when he sees that it was King 10.
And with this pot, Marcello draws nearly even.
Not for the better so far. We'll see. I guess when I've been wearing it, I've done well.
What do you make of it so far, Isaac?
It's been a pretty even match. Marcello's shown some guts with that 10-5 3-bet. Both players seem to be playing pretty well so far.
And the kind of hand, I'm just thinking Durrrr usually 3-bets that kind of hand from the big blind.
Yeah, more often than not, we have seen him 3-bet with a hand like 2 suited broadways. He's flopped a flush draw here. Certainly not going anywhere. I wonder if he'll call or raise against this bet.
Right, you love the queens, but when you get called on the flop, you don't love them anymore.
Well, they're still likely to be best. Tom will call with a king, but he'll also call with an 8 and a bunch of other hands. Like a flush draw that gets there on the turn. Wonder if Tom will lead out now.
Idea being, better way to get 2 streets of value.
Yeah. And he can balance it by leading out to bluff with hands like ace high or pocket 5s that he might have called the flop with.
Well, Marcello going through the permutations here. He must be a little bit sick. Would Tom have played a king like this?
Unlikely, I think. When the flush gets there on the turn, king goes from a very strong hand to a medium strength hand that Tom would be more likely to continue check calling with, I think.
Wow.
Marcello raises. That's an interesting play.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
And I mean,
Tom's certainly excited.